Our setting is the Middle Ages, somewhere between 13-something to 15-something, and you are just some guy. Not a landed noble, a dude. No castle, nothing special. And there is a new strain of the Black Plague sweeping across the land. But this time, it doesn't leave people dead, it leaves them undead.
There's a new type of plague, a zombie plague.
Brains.
Dude.
Got a little bit carried away. You taste very good. First of all, let's talk about what you don't have.
You don't have castles, squires, nobles, knights. You have to live outside of the walls.
You're just some schmuck. You can scavenge and forage and get things. There'll be stuff lying around. There's a lot of abandoned places and dead people you can scavenge off of, but you gotta carry it all with you, and no one is gonna help you.
Before we talk about what to bring, let's talk about what you're up against. What are the zombies like?
So we're gonna go with like a generic zombie. It's a reanimated corpse. It's not magical. If you destroy the brain, it's dead. If you cut off the head, the body dies. The head can still be animated, but it can't come after.
These zombies have human level strength, but they're not super fast or tearing off limbs or anything. They still decay, but we'll say they decay at a slower rate.
The disease is spread through bites, saliva, blood, and tissue, so you don't wanna get bit, but it's not gonna be from a scratch. It's gotta be from actual penetration or fluid exchange.
Penetration.
The other thing to talk about is there's gonna be less zombies because of medieval population density.
There's a lot less people back then, and the cities were a lot less populated.
This means you're not gonna encounter any mega swarms. It's gonna be much more manageable numbers.
Probably between like 1 and 2 dozen, max. So with all that said, what are you gonna bring to have the best chance of surviving?
First, let's talk about armor.
Probably the most important piece of your kit.
So obviously you wanna be the most protected, so you wanna wear full harness.
Wrong.
Full harness or full plate armor is not gonna be as useful as you think it is.
Full plate armor or harness is not a one-man operation.
It is incredibly hard to get in and out of, and you usually have people who are helping you when you're in it, supporting you, handing you things like weapons, or just kind of helping you maneuver around.
If you are on your own, there is no chance you're getting in and out of it quickly or easily on your own. It's not gonna happen.
And you definitely don't wanna wear it all the time because it is heavy. It's well distributed, but it's still a lot of extra weight, and that does add up.
If you're just walking around surviving, you don't wanna be in full plate all the time. That sounds terrible.
Well-crafted armor is fairly maneuverable. You can run in it, you can climb stuff, but the problem is if you're wearing it all the time, there's gonna be a lot of issues.
Harness also has a lot of maintenance.
First of all, let's talk about the rust. Armor rusts, and usually you weren't the one cleaning it if you had armor, you had squires doing that.
It takes a long time to oil and polish every single individual plate of armor. And that's not even thinking about all the straps and buckles you'll be constantly replacing.
And this all requires specialized tools and equipment, usually a workshop as well. You might be able to get a workshop that you're working out of, but we're gonna assume that you're probably gonna have to be on the move a lot.
It's just not gonna be very realistic to maintain armor.
It's also really, really loud to walk around in armor.
If you're trying to be at all stealthy, you're not gonna be.
All right, we gotta sneak through this next area. If you can ever help it, don't engage with the zombies. That's the last resort. If you can sneak around them, if you can avoid them, great. But if you're walking through the woods, clank, 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 you're gonna attract every zombie within 100 miles.
And every other person that might be interested in your shiny armor.
Yeah, it's just gonna be a magnet for trouble.
And lastly, you're not gonna have access to it, most likely.
Armor is extremely expensive, extremely expensive. If you were a peasant, it would be worth multiple times your entire house.
You'll probably be able to scavenge bits and pieces, but armor also is custom made to your body. Generally, it's not gonna fit you, it's not gonna wear well, you're not gonna find armor.
So we're just gonna say that full plate armor is off the table for all the reasons that we've said, but that doesn't mean there aren't bits and pieces of armor that you should get.
What you should probably find is gauntlets and a helmet.
Gauntlets and helmets are gonna be easier to size. You can probably find stuff that fits you well enough.
They're also gonna be light enough that they're not gonna impede you that much, and getting them on and off is something you can do on your own.
And it's not gonna be nearly as loud as a full kit. So definitely get gauntlets gauntlets and a helmet if you can.
If you want to have even more protection, you can probably get away with adding on a cuirass or a gorget, but that won't help you so much against zombies. That's more for human combatants.
A leather gorget would be good enough for zombies if you want to protect your neck. You don't really need to get steel for it. There's exactly one time when full harness would be a good idea, and that is if you absolutely must wade into the zombie horde.
And that's assuming a lot of things, that you have access to armor, that you have people to help you with it, and that you have time to get it on and plan.
And in this situation, you probably just want to think of a better solution and not go into the horde. But if you absolutely must, then yeah, wear armor.
So you don't want full plate, but I can hear you asking about chainmail.
Riveted chain might be a good idea, but there are still some drawbacks. It is still pretty heavy and loud.
And while there's a lot less maintenance, you do still have to maintain it.
But it is a lot lighter and easier to get on and off than full harness, and it does offer a lot of protection. The problem is, it's kind of overkill.
If you're defending it against zombies, you probably don't need chainmail to defend from bites.
Chainmail is mostly going to be useful against other survivors who might be attacking you.
Sure, it's not as useful as plate, but in reality, it's probably enough and it's all you'll ever need.
But honestly, chainmail is going to be overkill for most of your needs.
All you'll really need is a gambeson.
Zombies aren't going to be able to bite through a thick pad of gambeson. This is really satisfying.
It didn't even hurt. Gambeson is really good at its job.
I'm going to actually try and bite you hard. Are you ready?
Okay.
This is a test.
Yeah, I mean, it's not pleasant, but it's not, like, hurting me.
And this isn't even nearly as padded as a real gambeson would be.
Yeah.
This is just a fencing jacket.
A gambeson would be all you need to ward off zombie bites. But what if you're really worried and you definitely don't want no zombies biting you?
Well, then you could add half chain. You could put chain from the shoulder down and you could put it on the legs. This would ensure that you couldn't get bit in the most vulnerable areas, the limbs.
The gambeson is the best choice for a number of reasons.
It's lightweight, it's easy to get on and off, it's super easy to repair, and it's really comfortable.
Also, it's really quiet.
Basically, it's just a really padded jacket.
And a gambeson still has quite a bit of protection against conventional weapons.
They were really popular for a reason. The next thing you're gonna need is a good pair of boots.
This isn't even specifically a zombie survival thing. This is just general life thing.
A good pair of boots that won't wear out on you are gonna be a necessity. And bonus points if you can get higher boots, which are gonna protect against zombie bites to the calf and ankle.
And if you can't find high boots, you can always wrap cloth around your legs like multiple other cultures did.
You can wrap thick layers of cloth on any exposed part of yourself that you want to add a little bit more protection to. It is really hard to bite through multiple layers of cloth. So your armor loadout would look something like this. Just as an added note, add joint protection at the elbows and knees. Always a good idea. Even if you're not in combat, it's good to have padding. It can really get messed up if you get whacked there or if you bump it or whatever. This covers all the vital parts. You've got your head covered, you've got your hands covered, you've got bite-proof fabric.
Now you might notice, I'm not wearing any chainmail.
That's because we're poor and we can't afford chainmail. But if you want to change that, go ahead and support us on Patreon.
So overall, this is pretty comfortable and quiet. If you wanted extra protection, you could always add a little bit, like chain here or a cuirass, but that's really unnecessary. This is all you'll really need.
So you're all armored up, and now you need to get a weapon. The best and most obvious choice is
a bow!
This is gonna be your most useful tool during the zombie apocalypse. Not only is it good at murking zombies, it's also good for hunting
and for fending off other survivors who might want your stuff.
This bow here is probably overkill. You can get away with a recurve or a smaller bow, but I don't have one of those, so this is the bow that's in the shot.
You really only need a draw weight of 40 to 50 pounds. You're not punching through plate armor, you're punching through skulls, and you don't need much power to do that.
This is gonna be too big and cumbersome to take with you, so go with something smaller and easy to carry.
But why a bow instead of a crossbow?
Ah, well this is because machines will break and you'd have to have specialized tools to fix it. This is easy, it's simple. If it breaks, you can make another one. And if you're saying, well, I don't know how to use a bow, guess what?
You now have a lot of time and targets to practice with.
So get good. Bows are great for long range combat, but a lot of the times the zombies are gonna be up and personal. There are a lot of different ouchie sticks out there that you can choose between. You've got spears, you've got partisans and glaives, you've got halberds, you've also got pole hammers, but we think the best one for the zombie apocalypse would be
some sort of bashy stick.
The problem with something like a spear is it would be effective at long range combat. Remember, zombies aren't gonna bleed out. You have to destroy the brain. And this is great at stabbing someone in the stomach, but now they're coming at you. Now they're coming at you and it's stuck in them and you have multiple people to deal with.
The reason this is good is because you can bash their brains out. And if for some reason you don't want to bash the brains out, you can still stick them with the pointy end, and the head will act as a crossguard, keeping them away from you.
Spears come in a variety of lengths, but usually they're much longer than pole hammers, which makes them a little bit hard to carry around.
This would also be probably your best bet against other people, whether they're armored or not.
The pole hammer or something like it is probably going to be the best primary weapon for the zombie apocalypse. It's portable, it's versatile, and low maintenance, perfect for the apocalypse.
So some sort of bashy stick is your primary weapon, but what about a sidearm?
If I had to pick one sidearm that was the most versatile across a multitude of different situations, I would pick a Fiore-style longsword, short enough to be used in one hand, but still versatile enough to be used in two hands. The problem is, this would be almost entirely useless against zombies.
And this is really the problem with most swords out there. These aren't that great at dealing with zombies.
In order to kill a zombie, you have to destroy the brain, and this is a stabby weapon. It can do a lot of damage, and it can cut people real good, but if you want to insta-kill somebody by destroying the brain, this isn't the best option.
While it would be great against any survivors, to justify carrying it in the apocalypse, it has to be a multi-purpose tool.
That's why I would pick something like a messer.
Or a falchion. We don't have a falchion.
This could be used as a sword against other survivors, but it also has some tool elements. It could be used to clear away brush and other things, kind of like a machete.
It's light, compact, and portable. It's easy to carry around. It's quick to draw and deploy.
Overall, I think this is just a better pick than the longsword because it has some tool function and it's still gonna do most of the things the longsword can do.
Worst case, if a zombie gets too close, it'll be easier to draw this and stab them in the head than with a longer longsword or something like that.
But we can hear you saying, what about shields? Shields are like the most effective defensive tool in all of combat history.
And you're right, against weapons.
Zombies don't have weapons. Zombies are gonna do this.
Now, if you don't have access to any sort of armor at all, a gigantic, some sort of tower shield or pads would be helpful, but not more helpful than just a gambeson.
Additionally, a shield gives a zombie something to grab onto, and if it's attached to you, well...
That's why if you're gonna have a shield, it has to be some sort of center grip, so you can just let go.
The other problem with the shield is it's big. You gotta carry this thing around, either on your back or on your front, and that's more weight for something that really isn't doing that much work. The only time a shield is really gonna be helpful is if you're fighting other survivors, and at that point, you'd be better off with something like a buckler that can be easily worn on your hip or on your pack instead of this giant shield.
And the next thing you need, probably the most important thing,
is just basic survival stuff like camping equipment and small hand tools.
Some sort of survival backpack with survival things in it.
Yeah, like you gotta camp, man. You gotta travel around. I mean, obviously keep to the essentials. We're not a survival channel. Clark is an Eagle Scout.
Whoa.
But I don't think you came here to get camping tips. So we're gonna move on to the next thing.
And the last thing is a vehicle.
Clark, we're also not a car channel.
No, David, a horse.
Oh, that's actually a good idea. Some sort of horse or donkey and covered cart would be great.
You can use it to carry things you don't need immediate access to. You could sleep in it. It's pretty mobile. It's just, there's no reason not to have it.
Except that it's one more thing to look after and take care of. You gotta feed the horse. If you can manage it, great. But it's gonna slow you down if you're trying to make really rapid progress.
Or just a single horse would also be pretty good.
The horse can help you carry some stuff. You can store some stuff on the saddle itself.
But in a dire situation, a normal horse probably won't help you as much as you might think. Most horses aren't trained for battle and they don't like large hordes of things.
So if you have dreams of being a knight or a hussar, charging through a horde of zombies and lopping off heads, probably not gonna happen.
If you tried to take your average horse through a horde of zombies, it's probably gonna throw you off and keep going. Unless you have access to a battle charger, which at that case, you'd be a knight with armor and castle.
And then this whole video doesn't make any sense, don't listen to it. If you're a knight with a castle, it's a whole different video.
Yeah, a whole different video.
Just stay in the castle! So put it all together and you get this! This is probably gonna be the best loadout to survive a zombie apocalypse in the Middle Ages. You've got a helmet to protect your head, you've got a thick padded gambeson to protect from zombie bites and some attacks from conventional weapons, you have your big smashy pole hammer, you have a messer that's both weapon and tool, you've got a buckler in case you need it, and you've got a bow for hunting and for long-range combat.
All this with some sort of pack is everything I'd really ever need. It's light, it's maneuverable, it's quiet, it's easy to access anything I might want.
The best part about this is it's all pretty accessible, it's easy to maintain, and you could probably scavenge it in an apocalypse. You probably wouldn't be able to start out with all of this, but it wouldn't be unreasonable to be able to find these things or get these things.
So the next time you find yourself isekai'd into a medieval zombie apocalypse,
Don't go for that heavy plate armor. Instead, go nice and light, and don't forget your smashy pull hammer. Now you have all the tools you need to survive and thrive. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked the video and you want to support the channel, please consider donating as low as $1 a month to our Patreon. There's a link on screen right now. It really helps the channel, and it helps us bring you more videos. See you on the next one.